All right, when I say Renaissance, what pops into your head? Probably museums, right? Famous paintings, maybe some sculptures. Well, I want you to forget all that. Forget the quiet, dusty museum tour, because today we're looking at the Renaissance for what it really was, the violent, chaotic, and absolutely brilliant rewiring of reality that created the world we're all living in right now. First things first, we've got to bust a major myth. We have this idea of the Renaissance as some peaceful, enlightened age. But the reality? Oh, it was anything but. It was an era of the most brutal contradictions you can imagine. I mean, at the same time Leonardo was dissecting bodies to unlock the secrets of human anatomy, public executions were basically a form of popular entertainment. The light of humanism cast some very, very long and dark shadows. To really get just how radical this period was, we have to understand the world it completely blew up. So let's take a quick trip back to the medieval mindset. Okay, so imagine living in a world that felt like this perfectly woven, unchanging tapestry. Everything and everyone had its proper place. Your social status? It was fixed the moment you were born. Your entire purpose in life was basically just a preparation for the afterlife. And all truth, all authority, it flowed straight down from God, through the church, to you. It was stable, it was ordered, and your identity was tied to the collective. Individual ambition? That wasn't really a thing. And then, in the span of just a few decades, boom, that entire stable tapestry was torn to absolute shreds by a cascade of shocking disruptions, one right after the other. Now, what's so wild is how these events created a perfect storm. The printing press didn't just spread ideas, it industrialized argument itself. Then the fall of Constantinople sends this flood of ancient Greek texts and scholars pouring back into Europe. Then Columbus stumbles upon a new world which completely shatters the biblical map of reality. And finally, Martin Luther uses that new printing press to nail his 95 Theses to a church door, fracturing Christendom forever. Each one of these was an earthquake. All of them together, it was world-breaking. And just think about the scale of this one change for a second. Before Gutenberg, a single book was this incredibly rare, handmade luxury item. By 1500, just a few decades later, there are millions of them circulating. We're not just talking about more Bibles here. We're talking political pamphlets, scandalous poems, new scientific texts. This was the birth of mass media, and for the very first time, it put the power of ideas directly into the hands of ordinary people. But you know, the biggest revolution of all wasn't in technology or in politics. It was a software update for the human brain. It was, and I'm not exaggerating, the invention of the individual as we know it today. This new operating system was called humanism. See, scholars started reading all these old Greek and Roman texts, but they read them on their own terms, not through a religious filter. And they found this whole new worldview that celebrated human reason, our potential, our achievement, right here on Earth. The goal was no longer just about getting to heaven, it was about achieving excellence in this life. So the key takeaway is this massive shift in who the hero was. The medieval hero was the saint, right? Focused on piety, humility, and the collective salvation of everyone's soul. The new hero? The Renaissance man. This multi-talented individual who could be an artist and a scientist and a poet and a warrior. Suddenly, ambition and worldly success weren't vices anymore, they were virtues. And then the Protestant Reformation came along and just poured gasoline on this fire. By getting rid of the priest as the middleman between you and God, it forced people into this direct, personal, and frankly agonizing relationship with the divine. It created this whole new internal anxiety, this constant question of, am I saved? Which fueled this intense drive for self-examination and for worldly success as a possible sign that you were one of the chosen ones. So, how did this new mindset end up building the world that we all recognize today? Well, this new kind of person, this ambitious, introspective individual, they didn't just think differently, they started building differently. And nowhere was the clash between the old world and the new world more obvious than in science. It was the ultimate showdown, empirical observation, what you could see and prove with your own eyes, versus institutional dogma, the truth that was just handed down by ancient authorities like the church. The trial of Galileo is the classic example, right? He's forced by the Inquisition to deny that the earth moves around the sun. He recants, but as he's walking away, he supposedly mutters under his breath, and yet it moves. It's the perfect symbol of this new scientific spirit, an idea so powerful that not even the threat of torture and death could truly extinguish it. This revolution in thought completely reshaped politics too. Just look at England. A century of conflict between the king and parliament ends with an act that was simply unthinkable at the time. They put their own king on trial and executed him. That single event just shattered the sacred idea that a king's power came directly from God. And from those ashes, a new idea started to grow, the foundation for modern democracy, where power comes not from a divine monarch, but from the people. And this focus on the self has echoes you see literally every single day. The idea of the artist as a celebrated genius, of carefully crafting your public identity, what we now call a personal brand, that's a Renaissance invention. The whole quest to find yourself, or the pressure to be a multi-talented Renaissance person, yep, that's a direct inheritance from this period. So why does any of this matter now? Because this period isn't just dusty old history. It's both a mirror that reflects our own turbulent times, and it's a map that shows us exactly how we got here. When you look at the violent religious conflicts of the 16th century, you can see the DNA of our modern culture wars. When you look at the trial of Galileo, you see the blueprint for today's battles over scientific truth and misinformation. The questions they were wrestling with about truth, authority, and what it even means to be human are the exact same questions we're wrestling with right now. And it's our map. It traces the origins of pretty much everything we take for granted: our scientific method, our democratic ideals, and our relentless inward focus on the self. The paths that we walk every single day were first blazed during this chaotic, creative, and world-shattering era. Which leaves us with the great, unfinished question of the Renaissance. This period, it started what you could call the disenchanting of the world. This process of replacing divine mystery with scientific explanation, of trading faith for facts. It took humanity from the sidelines and placed us at the center of everything. But in doing so, it left us with this profound challenge, one we are all still trying to answer today. If the universe wasn't made for us, then what, ultimately, is our purpose here? The search for that answer. That is the unfinished project of the modern world.